I thought there'd be another form. I was expecting a second form. Where are her pants? Jesus. I'm gonna have things to say after this ending sequence. Sending the whole Xanacant. You know we're inside the summoned Xanacant.
Don't stop.
But
It's all right. It's been long enough. This is your world now.
That's addressed to the player. Although it's not, it might have been better before it got translated in English. There might have been like double meanings there that got lost. This must have taken ages to render. Those particle effects. That must have taken ages to render.
Yuna, I have to go. I'm sorry I couldn't show you Xanarkin. Goodbye.
Hey!
We're gonna see you again!
Yuna!
Couldn't you, like, summon him back? So what you need, you need a person to sacrifice themselves, and then you can summon back the memory of the thing that's gone. That's what Xanarkin was, right? Xanarkin, or like all the survivors from Xanarkin sacrificed themselves to allow you, Yevon, to summon the dream of Xanarkin back.
I love you.
So now we just need to find a human sacrifice. What I'm trying to say is, we just need to find a human sacrifice, kill them, and then use them to summon Tidus back. Good plan. But it has to be someone who remembers Tidus. So it's gonna have to be one of the party. Oren's gone, Tidus is gone. It's either gonna be Riku, Lulu, Waka, Kimari. And if we sacrifice Lulu or Waka, we can also summon back Waka's brother, whatever his name was. Anyway, I just ruined that ending for everyone, thank you. You're welcome.
Yuna, it's time.
I'm sure you can summon him back somehow. Not that it's a good idea, but it's possible.
Everyone has lost something precious. Everyone here has lost homes, dreams, and friends. Everybody? Now, Sin is finally dead. Now, Spira is ours again. Working together. Now we can make new homes for ourselves. And new dreams. Although I know the journey will be hard, we have lots of time. Together, we will rebuild Spira. The road is ahead of us. So let's start out today. Just one more thing. The people and the friends that we have lost. No dreams that fade. Never forget them.
Hey, you want me to ruin this a bit more? Titus died a virgin. I'm sorry. That's alright. He's just to ruin everything. Simon ruins everything. Okay, I wrote down some things I want to talk about. So, out of all the Final Fantasy games I've played, I think 10 is probably the best. Like the story, the gameplay is decent, although it's a bit on rails until you get the airship. But the story is probably the best out of all the Final Fantasy games that I've played, and it is still not good enough. And I've said this throughout the game. It tries to, like, I mean, it talks about there's a number of themes, right? There's the relationship between Tidus and Jet. There's toxic masculine bullying that Jet subjected Tidus to when he was a baby. And Jet was a bad guy, like he was drunk and he was like abusive. And like the throughout the game, you see Jet like changing as a person, finally learning responsibility. He quit drinking, and then he sacrificed himself along with Braska to try to save the world and all that. So he turns from this bad guy to a good guy, and that's good. That's good. And in the end, you know, he reconciles with Tidus, and okay, that's nice. So it's a story against toxic masculinity. It's a story against the bullying, against the drinking, and all that. And yet, in other parts of the game, it still exists. Like the main story says, don't be toxic, right? That's good. That's good. Don't be a toxic male. But then the Ronsos are still toxic. Right? Like Kimari goes back to Mount Gegazet, and like like he's not accepted as a Ronso until he beats the crap out of those two other guys. And so in other parts of the game, like guys are still punching each other, and like there's nobody respects you until you punch them. That's toxic. You see what I mean? And like Waka punching people when he gets angry, that's also toxic. So it's like the story, they kind of do the right thing, but then they're not self-critical enough to then see it in other forms. So like they know the story they want to tell is, alright, this relationship between Jet and Tidus is toxic. Let's see how they resolve that in a positive manner. But then when they apply toxic masculinity in other parts of the game, they're not critical enough to realize they're doing it, and so they just make the same mistake again somewhere else. Right, so it's a good story, but it's not good enough because it's not critical enough about what it's saying in every part of the story. So that's one theme. The other theme is the strong woman character, Yuna. And that's also a good story too. Like, Yuna is this like strong character who is out with the intent of sacrificing herself to save the world. That is heroic, right? Like, she is a heroic woman. And throughout the story, like, you see how strong she is, how committed she is to doing the right thing, even at cost to herself. And, you know, eventually Kamari tells Yuna to, like, just stop apologizing. You're not doing anything wrong. And and other characters tell Yuna like how strong she is. So that's cool. Strong woman's good. We're into feminism. So one of the main themes of the story is, respecting strong heroic women. Except in other parts of the game, you have women just not wearing pants for no reason. So it's like, are we respecting women, or are we just treating them as sex objects? Right? Like, why are the Chocobo Knights not wearing pants? I can tell you why they should wear pants, because they're knights. You know what I mean? They're knights, they should wear leg armor. But they don't wear leg armor because they're women, and women don't wear pants sometimes for no reason at all. So again, like, they tell a good story in the main story. They tell a good story with Yuna being a strong female character. But then in other parts, they do the same disrespectful nonsense that they should be criticizing. Again, like, they're not self-critical enough to understand like that they are making the very mistake that they are criticizing themselves. And then another theme is racism. Racism against the Albed. And I've talked about this already in the game. Like, throughout the game, there's Walker's like racism against Albed. And in a way, like, you can kind of see why he arrived at it, because he blames the Albed for his brother dying. Chapu is his name. And the story is that racism is wrong, right? Because eventually, Walker, over time, finally gets to meet some Albed and gets to know them and makes friends with some of them. And so eventually he comes to the understanding that, you know what, Albed are just people. They're just people. I shouldn't just hate them because they're Albed. So over time, Walker figures out that racism is wrong, and that, on a basic level, you say, well, that's a good story, right? Because it's about learning why racism is wrong. And yet it's not good enough, because it doesn't call out Walker's racism when he's being racist. And as I said this, like, the whole, like, all the other characters just let Walker be racist. They don't like question him, they don't stop him, they don't call him out on it. They tiptoe around his racism and they let him continue to be racist. Which is wrong, right? So the story, the main thread of the story is right, but then they're not critical enough to get it completely right. There's also another theme is not trusting authority, because like Yevon, throughout the story, like Yevon's just been lying to these people this whole time. Like, not trusting Yevon, not just taking their word. And so that's kind of good. And this thing about like anti-technology, the Yevon being anti-technology, but it turns out technology is not the problem. Anyway, those are side themes. Alright, so that's what I have to say. That's what I wrote down. So this is, as I said, is probably the best Final Fantasy game I've played. It's a good story, and yet it's not good enough. Like, it's good, but then it repeats the same mistakes that it's trying to fix. It's very interesting to see this. And of course, the thing about like big games like this is that it's not just one person. You can tell it's probably like there's one main story writer who wrote the correct story, and then other people did the side bits without really understanding the main story or understanding the main point of the main stories, and so they make the same mistakes again. Like, it's unlikely that the main story writer would have designed the naked woman characters. And it's unlikely that the main story writer, or maybe, I don't know if they wrote the Ronso part. Anyway, it's just a... It's like, it falls short of its own standards, which is kind of weird why it would do that. It's like somebody telling you that racism is wrong, and then they say racist things. It's like, well, no, but you just said it's wrong. Why are you doing it? Or it's like somebody saying, oh, like it's bad to be selfish, and then you find out they hoard a lot of stuff, and they don't help anyone, and you're like, but you just like it's a hypocrisy. You know what I mean? But it's not conscious hypocrisy. It's more like careless hypocrisy. It's like you know what's right, but you're not putting in the effort to question every single thing you do to make sure that everything you do is right. You're just saying it without really thinking about it. Anyway, it's a good Final Fantasy game. It's not perfect, but it's much better than most of the others I've played. 7 is also good. 7, 10. Anyway, that's it for this playthrough. I'm out of here. I might play Final Fantasy X2 as well, although I think that one is more just fan service, which might be fun. Alright, see you later.